Hey everyone, it's Kai from Cool Collectibles, back again for another review. This time it's the Asmus Toys 1/6 scale Aragorn from Lord of the Rings. For a place to get all your collectibles, click the link in the description below to head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. They ship worldwide, so definitely check them out. Alright, so Asmus Toys released this Aragorn figure just over a year ago, I think. And I didn't pick it up at the time because I did hear a few bad things about their earlier releases with the Nazgul and their Morgul Lord, I believe, and they have done a few of the bad guys as well. I can't remember their names, but I did pass on those due to some of the issues that I did read about. And I didn't hear too many things about this, but I was in two minds about the head sculpt, which I'll go through in a second. But now that I did hear that they are planning on doing the rest of the Fellowship, I figured it was time for me to have a closer look. And I talked to a few collectors on 1/6 Republic and so on, and they finally told me that it was worth getting. And once I did get it, I was definitely glad that I did, because I mean, God, look at that. Holy ton of accessories, Batman, because I haven't been this impressed with the array of accessories and an overall figure package for a very long time. When you open the package, it's pretty much like opening up one of the old Hot Toys DX figures with the foam packaging. So you see there the nice artwork on the box there of a screenshot from the movie, and the insert cardboard cover is a picture of the figure, which also looks pretty good. And all of it's packaged in the nice foam and so on, and so it's really good just unboxing that array of accessories, and you can get a feel for it here. I'll go through that right now, hold on. Alright, probably one of the best accessories, for me at least, is the diorama base itself, and it is absolutely fantastic. It comes in two components which are held together by this peg and a very strong magnet, as you can see there. So it just slots in very nicely there. And the detailing on this is just really good. The paint application, I'm not sure what sort of material it is, if it's resin or just plaster or what, but the amount of sculpted detail, the paint just looks very nice. Love the detailing in the bird here. It just looks outstanding. But the favorite part of the stand for me definitely has to be the stairs here. And as you can see, this moss here is actually actual stuck on sort of like fabric moss to simulate that realism. So you just have to be really delicate, because it does it might get crushed, or it might rub off. It seems fairly hard wearing, but I'd definitely err on the side of caution and just be careful, particularly how you pose the figure on the stairs. But the level of detail and the paint application and so on with this sort of diorama base is just fantastic. So I can't complain about that at all. Also comes with a stock standard base. This is the first figure I got, but apparently the previous figures in the line have this sort of standard base, so at least they've included that if you want some sort of consistency in that display. But the accessories, it's just a huge assortment of accessories. Now, I did get this set from Big Bad Toy Store, and apparently the first batch of pre-orders and so on came with this alternate head sculpt. The prototype itself, in the promotional pictures, had a pretty damn horrific screaming type head sculpt, which was pretty bad. So they did adjust it in the final production to this sort of slightly open-mouthed head sculpt, and as you can see, it's not that great either. It's definitely an improvement over what they had in the promotional photos, but it's not that great a sculpt, to be honest. The hair, I think, is very similar to the default sculpt, and it's a nice sort of softer plastic down the bottom here, so it's not rooted hair or anything like I think the alternate ACI version. But I do like the sculpting. The only issue that's also on the default head is that because the the hair sort of goes up so high, and his forehead is so high, it almost gives him this bit of a cone head look. So I'm not sure if you can sort of heat this up and push it down a bit more, or something like that, but I'll have to see if there are any mods out there to try and get that a bit lower. But either way, the sculpt and the way he's got his mouth and so on isn't that great a likeness. From some angles, maybe it's, from maybe a bit lower, or from the side and so on, it looks better. But front on, it does look a little bit off. But the paint application itself isn't too bad. It doesn't have that sort of freckling realism of the Hot Toys figures. So it is a bit flat, but I do like the shading on the beard and so on. And I guess the eyes don't have that perfect sort of glassy realism from some of the Hot Toys figures, but it's not too bad either. So I guess the main points negative on the particular head sculpt are the cone head and the overall sort of look of that expression. So I probably won't be using this all that much, to be honest, and it'll probably just stay in the box. So if you did miss out on that particular version, I don't think it's that big a deal. But the accessories themselves, the overall quality is actually fantastic. So it does come with this outer sort of coat, that there's no wire or anything on there, and it's sort of like a, I'm not sure how to describe that. It's almost like a suede-ish type material, or a felt material that's got a different sort of texture on the inside, and it's sewn together and tied up there with this brooch. I'm not sure if that's some sort of elven bracelet or pin or something there, but very nicely done. And the instructions that it does come with pretty much tell you to take the head sculpt off, and put this over the head, and then just drape it over the shoulders. So from the photos I've seen, it does look pretty damn good once you've all set it all up. Just a bit of thread just loose there. I'll grab that off. There you go. But it does have a bit of that sort of weathering and dirt on the lower edges there, which is a nice bit of detailing. It comes with 2 fisted hands by default. It comes with a couple of swap out options. So the right hands are gloved, so this one's for the sword or the daggers, and this one's just a relaxed hand. The skin tone's probably a little bit too dark for me, but overall it's not too bad, and I do like the the detail that it's got, where it's not just a painted little jewel there, but it's actually a little inserted green, I don't know if it's just a green sort of translucent bit of plastic, but it does give it that nice extra bit of realism there. And the paint application on the fingers, I do like the sort of dirty fingernail look and so on. He is a ranger, so I like that detail. So yeah, that's not too bad. I've heard that it's pretty hard to swap out the hands, and there have been a few breakages, so I might just dip these in hot water before I try that out. But the hands themselves, not too bad. He comes with a couple of default gauntlets, I guess, if you want to call them that, which do look pretty nice. They're just plastic, so there's no sort of strapping there. It's just a molded plastic, but the paint application and the detailing in the pattern there is pretty nice. So they just go over his outer coat, which I think they just sit over the arms here like so. It does come with a couple of alternate gauntlet things. I didn't actually know what these were until I read up on some of the forums, where they said these were apparently they released a whole bunch of figures, and as part of each figure they include these parts to build an orc. So I'm not sure what other parts they included with the previous figures, but I guess it's a nice thing to include if you're collecting all of the figures, but I guess they're pretty useless for me. Comes with a couple of traveling accessories. So it comes with this funny looking pouch thing here. So I'm not sure if These are just meant to be tied together up the top. I'll have to look at some of the photos and so on. The instructions aren't totally clear on what needs to be done, and I'm never good at futzing around with these things, but that's pretty much what this thing looks like. So another sort of traveling bag, and it comes with this fake leather, I don't know if it's just a blanket of some sort. There's a blanket folded up in there. I don't know if you're meant to untie these. I probably wouldn't risk it myself. And again, you're just supposed to feed that through these little loops and so on. I've heard it could be a little, you probably need tweezers and so on to try and pull those through and futz around with that. But I do like that realism. This material does look very leather-like, and it just adds that extra bit of realism. So I do like that touch there. Comes with his quiver for the bow and arrow, and again it comes with this strap, which this buckle here seems very small, so I think I'm going to struggle getting that through, but I'm going to need to figure out a way to do that. And it comes with 6 arrows that you can put in there and store in there, and these arrows, I'm not sure if they're metal tips. They could be. They're not overly sharp. The paint detail on the feathers here at the back probably could have been better, but overall they do look pretty damn good. Now the bow itself, the detailing on this wooden part, I guess, could have been painted a bit more realistically, but I do like the use of this elastic string, so you can sort of pull it out in some of those action poses and it'll just spring back. Apparently in the photos you can store this on the quiver somehow. I'm not sure if it's supposed to go through this loop and somehow go through this hole here. I've got no idea how that's supposed to work, to be honest, because I don't know how you're supposed to squeeze that through there, but I'll have to check up on the forums and look at some photos to figure out how that is actually meant to go. But apparently it's possible. So, and then it comes with a smaller dagger, and I actually thought that mine didn't include this because the packaging is actually in 2 layers of foam, and this was actually stuck in the top layer, so when I took the top layer off, this was actually missing. So luckily I did look at the bottom of that top layer and found this stuck there. So this is his dagger. Oh, and the dagger, I think, just goes in this slot on this sword here, so you just fit it in that slot there like so. And this big sword, again, is really nicely detailed on the hilt here, or the sheath. It's got this nice leather looking strap that again you're supposed to tie around him, and you can just pull that out, and there's the sword. So again, nicely detailed. This is a metal blade. I think it is fairly flexible, so if it is bent, you can sort of bend it back in shape, so there's not too much of a problem there. And again, the overall detail is just really, really nice. You can just put it back in there like so. So there's that, and then there's this, I'm assuming it's an elven dagger, because it's got some sort of writing on it, which is nice. Now this is again metal, which is really nice, and the hilt there is painted in that sort of realistic wooden sort of colour, so I like that. And then he comes with his little smoking pipe. So I think that covers pretty much all the accessories that he has. It's probably the best array of accessories that I've had for a figure in a very, very long time, so definitely impressed by that effort by Asmus. Alright, so here is the base figure itself, and overall I do like the attention to detail, the costuming, the tailoring, and even the underlying body isn't too bad as well. So I guess almost the worst thing for me is really the head sculpt. And I agree with a lot of the reviewers out there and opinions on the head sculpt, in that from the forehead down, I mean, even if I just sort of just cover him from that point down, it's almost perfect. It's just, I'm not sure what's happened, if it's something during production or whatever, where this hair has just been almost squeezed together to give him that sort of cone-headed look. Now I guess depending on the angle that you have it, he does look a lot better from certain angles. Like if you see it from the side here, like so, it does look pretty close to Viggo Mortensen, I think his surname was. So yeah, so from certain angles it does look pretty good. It does probably look better from below as well. So overall it's not too bad. The same sort of hair and the soft plastic around there, and the articulation, you get the sort of good, fairly decent range of motion, and you might just have to futz around with the hair to get it to sit how you want it to sit. It comes with this elven brooch thing. I can't remember. I think that might have been the gift that I can't remember her name, to be honest. The elf gave her. I should remember her name, but I can't. And this silver necklace thing scares the crap out of me because it's so thin. I don't know. I haven't tried tugging on it too hard or anything like that. It does tend to get caught up along here, but it does look very delicate, so I'd be extra careful. Now you can just turn it the other side, like so. So it does look fairly nice, but once you have everything set up on the figure, it tends to get hidden away. So I guess it's a nice display option for those that don't have all the gear all over him. The layers of clothing, there's this outer sort of semi sort of fake leatherish type material. Then there's this less long but still fairly long inner coat, and then here there's this bluish tunic on the inside, and I think that's pretty much it. And then you have his pants here, which also have this tie around it, and they're all sort of different materials as well. So the tunic here is this sort of canvas type material, very similar to the pants. Then this outer jacket has a sort of brownish weathered leather look to it, and then this outer coat has this sort of shinier, more raincoat type material. And the great thing about this is that the material is really thin, so it sort of lays a bit more realistically. Some of the Hot Toys figures, the clothes tend to be perhaps a little bit too thick, but on this one the sort of thickness gives it a really nice sort of realism, and the tailoring and the stitching here is quite nice along the edges there. So all along from I think the midsection down, all of these edges have a little thin wire, so you can sort of bend it and pose it how you want. So that is a nice option, so you can have it sort of splaying out in the wind if you want to, like so. I'm not going to futz around with these ties too much, because with me and my fat fingers I'm going to spend forever trying to figure out how to tie them back. So they do look a little bit messy right now, but I'll try and tidy that up without undoing them. But overall, the sort of attention to detail in the tailoring, it's really nice. And because it's such a thin material, nothing really hinders the articulation. So the arms go out quite a good distance. They do tend to flop down a little bit. They're not too bad. And you do have the sort of standard double jointed elbows and so on. There is a bit of waist rotation and ab crunch and so on there. The legs work fairly well, probably a bit firmer than the arms, which I like. A good range of motion all the way through, and almost like a ratchet in the knees there. So I do like plenty of range of motion for some of those action poses and walking up those that diorama. The boots are also a nice sort of realistic felt material. The only negative with the boots is that because there's no sort of padding in the ankle area, it suffers from the same sort of issue as the recent Hot Toys Han Solo, in his boots, where it tends to collapse around the ankles there. And mine's probably worse on this particular side that you can see there. And there's nothing really you can do about it, I think, apart from maybe trying to pull these boots off and putting some padding around the ankles. I didn't even bother trying to do that on my Han Solo, and I probably won't bother doing that on the on this particular figure, just in case I break something, because it's got all of these real ties and string and so on to add that realism, and it's made of this sort of coarse, almost sort of suede-ish type material. So the attention to detail is really, really nice, but I guess they could have added a bit more padding around the ankles. But there's full articulation in those ankles, which is good as well. So they're not sort of fixed, sort of more sturdy, rigid boots, and they do give a good range of motion. So I guess you know, I give points for them trying that out. What else can I say about the figure? So articulation wise, I just showed, is really nice. The outfits are really nice. I'd just be careful. I haven't tried swapping the hands out. They don't provide any spare hand pegs, so I'd probably try dipping them in hot water before pulling anything out. But that is pretty much it. For those like me who are on the fence with this particular line, I would say now that they've pretty much confirmed that they are going to do the whole Fellowship. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan like me, you know, I've loved the movies. I haven't watched them for maybe 5 years. I probably should go back and revisit them, but you can't get much more iconic than Lord of the Rings and the Fellowship. So if Asmus Toys does get around to completing it, and they're of this particular quality, I think it's going to make for a pretty fantastic display in the cabinet. So I highly recommend them. The head sculpt's not perfect, I guess, and you know, the paint application on the head's probably not to the Hot Toys quality, but the array of accessories, the diorama base and everything else, I think more than make up for that nitpick. So highly recommend it from my part, and I think you can still pick it up from Big Bad Toy Store and maybe a few other places still for retail price. So I'd jump on it as soon as I could. Thanks again. I hope you guys like that look at Aragorn. I hope you can click that subscribe button. I did get a Big Bad Toy Store haul with these two figures coming up next. So hopefully you can subscribe and stick around for the review of these two, because these two are pretty damn fantastic figures as well. So hopefully you can stick around for that. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers. Bye.